What is up, Sneeples? We're going to be looking at the Guardians of Heavy Hitters, going over what cards you can use in Constructed and what cards you can draft for in Limited and what cards you shouldn't draft for. We're going to go over all the Guardian cards today, so let's get to it. We are going to start things off with Betsy, skin in the game. Honestly, right now, I feel there's not a ton of wager attacks out there to allow her to really blossom in Constructed. I know a few people that are building some decks, and it is really cool that if you give wager to a non-Guardian card, this can work all the same to give it overpower, such as Command and Conquer. And that is really cool, and I've seen that work kind of consistently, so it does make me wonder, maybe there is some room for Betsy, but as of now, I kind of think she is more going to be the limited hero, and I think she's going to shine in that. Overpower is a very strong mechanic in Limited, a way to close out games, and I think Betsy, skin in the game, can do it. So I really like her in Limited, and then in Constructed, I'm pretty reserved right now. And then yeah, UPF, you just kind of play whatever you want to play, so you can play her or not. Okay, next up we got Victor Goldman, High and Mighty. You know, there's a lot of speculations that this could be Goldhim. You know, this is going to be the more defensive style Guardian deck, and it certainly can be. You know, I understand that, you know, your gold is getting replaced by drawing a card when you get a gold, and it's just, I see that being very useful and very like powerful in a way to kind of continue just getting cards in hand after making gold. But there's not a ton of gold stuff to be made. I don't think you're going to be doing it every turn. You don't necessarily have to do it every turn for Victor to be good, but I think you do want to try to have it enough to justify not playing cards like Starstruck and Crippling Crush, where Bravo can play these cards. So if you're going to play Guardian, it needs to justify not being playing those cards, and I'm not sure if Victor gets there. To me, Bravo is still the best Guardian that you can currently play in Constructed, and that's just where I'm at. However, when we look at Limited, I still think it is Betsy out of the two Guardians. But I do think Victor Goldman has a place. It can be a little bit more grindier. I just kind of think if you're looking at Guardian and Limited, you're probably going to have an easier time making a Betsy deck before you make a Victor deck. That being said, it wouldn't surprise me if I become a Victor main. Anyhow, High Riser. This is our token weapon, so you're just going to have this. Is this better than Titan's Fist? Is this something that you can run Shield Braid Buckler with? No, Titan's Fist is going to be the better option, so I don't think this is going to get any sort of classic Constructed or Blitz play at all. Miller Grindstone, I could see in Constructed, as well as I like it in Limited. Limited a little less because it does clash. I understand, especially if you're a Victor, you can, you know, this works much better with Victor because you can, you know, redo your clash basically. But in Limited, everyone's going to be having big cards. Everyone's going to be having high attack powers, even the Warriors. Maybe Kasai is the only one that really isn't looking to have big cards, but instead sorted bumps. But yeah, so clashing isn't like a guaranteed thing. In Constructed, however, you're going to have decks that you're almost always going to win the clash. And because of that, I really do like Miller Grindstone in Constructed. I think it does allow for more of a very fatigue style playstyle to be had. And for that, I'm excited. That is a playstyle that I am very familiar with. And so I'm excited for that. And it also will just, it kind of solves the fatigue problem. It does like add a clock. So I think that's actually pretty good too for the game in itself. Alright, next up we have RM Aegis. This is just Victor Specialization, and basically what it really comes down to, you can't draft this as a legendary. If you're playing Victor, you should be playing this shield. I don't think you should be trying Ramparts of the Ram's Head. I think this is the shield you want. It does count as a gold. So if you're playing Victor, you play this. I think that's really all there is to it. Okay, Stonewall Impasse. I don't think this is going to see any sort of Constructed play. There's really no reason not to run Steelblade Buckler over this. So I think, you know, we're not going to see this in Constructed. In Limited, however, I actually am going to value this pretty high. just because it's a very good shield. At the very least, it just blocks 1, but it could block 2, 2 and then 1, which is obviously very good. And then on top of that is you don't really want to be dual wielding hammers as a guardian, so having a Stonewall Impasse will be very, very good. That being said, one thing I thought about Military Grindstone as far as in limited is if you had Military Grindstone and High Riser, then once the Grindstone becomes not worth attacking with, you can always just have this weapon, the High Riser. So, you know. But I definitely want to have the Stonewall Impasse and a hammer over having 2 hammers. Alright, Gauntlets of Iron Will. Plain simple, if you're playing any sort of Guardian, this is what you're going to be wanting to play over Crater Fist. This is just a strict upgrade. Crater Fist is majestic, this is legendary, so it makes sense that it'd be an upgrade. Do take note that it is the next time an attack would gain. So, you know, it doesn't count for the attack that is blocking that already has a bump. It will not decrease that bump, but it will work for like attack reactions or just the next attack. Yeah, so there's that. Next up, Golden Glare. Victor's Specialization. This is draftable, but as I mentioned with all these specialization equipments that you can draft, I hold a very low priority on them just because it's only one of the 6 heroes that you can draft can play it. And then so you really only want to draft it once you know you are that one hero. So this is no different. This one's a little disappointing to me just because I feel like it doesn't do as much as the others. It's still good. It's still block 2 Blade Break, and that's fine. I just don't feel like you're going to really get the value with the 2 yellow cards, Great Gold Token. That's like a lot of little things that you have to have line up in order for this to work. So I'm not super high on this in the first place, and then, yeah, even past it, I'm not big on. This doesn't beat Crown of Providence. This doesn't beat Balance of Justice. This doesn't really beat any of the other equipments out there. So I think if you're playing in a constructed format, you're not going to be playing this card, even if you're Victor. Good Time Chapeau. This one, I think, could actually see constructed play. I think, obviously, this is Betsy's Specialization, so you only play this if you're Betsy. And I think it really is good enough to make it work for her. This gives your attack wager. There's not a ton of wager attacks out there, so having, you know, a card that's always with you to be able to give any card wager, I think is just so very good, and is what's going to help Betsy potentially have a CC deck or Blitz deck. And then as far as limited goes, again, you know, Specialization, so I wouldn't draft it until like the 3rd round or once I, you know, solidify that on Betsy. And then this one is still very good, has Temper, has that ability, so this one I hold much higher than Golden Glare. Next up we have Stand Ground. This is the token defense equipment. I don't like these. I don't like these in any sort of sense. You know, unless I feel like these tokens are just being thrown around every turn, I am not going to want to have these as my equipment pieces. So Stand Ground I do not like. Alright, moving on. Bet Big, Betsy Specialization. So yeah, if you're playing Betsy in Constructed, you're going to be running 3 of these. Just plain simple, very good. In Limited, in Draft, in Sealed, if you see this, it might be worth just going for it, honestly. Early rounds in Draft, if you see it, yeah, it's really that good. Because it allows you to wager, and because you're playing Betsy, you can give this overpower. You can give it become 9 overpower for 6, and then it has the, you know, on hit if gold, might, and vigor. It's just really good. I really think this is something that you can draft early. You don't have to pick Betsy if you draft this early, but you are definitely leaning towards Betsy. But it is a bomb. Prime to Fight. This one, not so much bomb. As when we talk about draft, I think you still probably draft this, but I think there's other cards I would draft before this, like some of the hybrid cards, just keep me open. But if I'm Guardian by like pack 2, and I feel like I was pretty Guardian, or at least pack 3, then, you know, you can pick this pretty early. This is, you know, dealing with tokens once again, so, you know, I'm not exactly sure how good you really want this. The problem with this card is that it's not going to be a 5 for 10 most of the time, or a 4 for 10 most of the time. You might be able to get it to become a 5 for 10 or a 4 for 9, but probably going to be a 5 for 9 more times than not. So when we look at constructed, you know, because it's not Spinal Crush, it's going to be hard to justify this card. There's a lot of 6 for 10s out there. So 5 for 9, I don't know. I think the 6 for 10 is probably where you end up being. You can at least chip in a little bit of damage with that. Okay. Golden Sun, the Golden Sun Victor Specialization. So if you're playing Victor, you're going to be running 3 of these. This is a card where I would consider, you know, drafting early on again. I feel like this is bomb worthy to draft early on and kind of lean towards Victor, but not have to commit to it. But yeah, it's just that good of a card. So the Bet Big and Golden Sun are just too good to kind of pass up early on. Okay. Bose is one where I could pass it early on. It's not a bad card in any sense. It is a blue block 3, and that's fine. I'm okay with a block card if it can pitch for blue and it blocks halfway decent, because then we're looking good. This card could be a block 5 that pitches blue. It could even be more. You know, who knows how many clashes happen? There's some block clashes. There's obviously attack clashes. Who knows actually what happens? But even if it's just at its base a block 3 that pitches for blue, that's just on average just good. Because this card isn't anywhere great unless, you know, you meet some conditions, is why I'm not drafting this like as a bum. But if it gets past me, you know, maybe like picks 5 through 10, yeah, I'd lean towards it. I still probably looking for hybrid cards. You know, I still probably trying to stay open a little bit and just wait for that card to convince me to go one way, or just kind of look at the pools. Okay, Trout, another Majestic, another Guardian block. Yeah, it's one of these where you have to win Clash twice for it to work, and then you get a Gold, Might, and Vigor. So I don't like this in Limited because it's, like I've mentioned before, Clash is going to be kind of hard to win because everyone has big attacks. And so to win it twice, I think is real hard. And it's a block card that pitches for 1. So I'm not big into it. This is a definite pass for me as far as Majestics goes. In Constructed, I don't particularly care for this card either, unless I feel like I need Gold, Might, and Vigor. I just don't feel like that's really the case, though. So I think I'm just kind of avoiding this card in general. You know, maybe in UPF, you know, having these extra tokens, not so bad. You know, having extra block cards, not so bad. I think if there's a home where I would play it, it would be UPF. Okay. Next we have Colossal Bearings. So we've actually had this card before. This was the Brevant deck. This is a setup card. This is a card where it's either a 4 for 8 or 4 for 13 that has this on hit. If it's a 4 for 8, then it's just kind of average. It's nothing special. And so it's just kind of average. You can just kind of pick it if just as for a big attack. But if you can get it to be the 4 for 13, obviously that's really good. It does require some setup. We're going to get into some cards that can help you set up. But when we're talking about a 1v1 format, I really don't like taking a turn off, not attacking my opponent to put up a setup card, and then taking damage because I want to play this card. So I have to at least have 2 cards in hand, assuming this is an arsenal. And then, you know, playing it. So, like, I'm just taking a lot of damage and not dealing enough damage back for, like, 2 turns that I don't particularly like doing this playstyle in 1v1. Now, UPF, this playstyle is awesome. You aren't necessarily going to get attacked. You know, you can definitely make deals. Playing out that aura that's going to pump this card, you can be like, look, I'm putting out this aura that's going to give my next Guardian attack +5 on my next turn. If you don't attack me, it doesn't come your way. You know, it could be really that simple. So I like Colossal Bearing for UPF, and that's where it was made for. So it makes sense that it works there. Lay Down the Law, same deal. 3 for 7. It's just solid. It really is. So you can just draft that and just do it 1v1 and not worry about the tower ability, and then be okay. Smack of Reality. Here again, we got a 5 for 9. You know, it's just kind of on rate. But yeah, 4 for 8 on rate as well. Okay, over the top. Over the top, 3 for 6. That blocks for 3. Okay, not bad. If it has power greater than its base, it gets overpower, and that's what we really, really like. So what that means is all we need is to have a might token pop off on the turn that we play over the top. It's a way to finish the game, right? Overpower is a way to get damage through and finish the game. And so that's why I'm all about over the top. I think I'm going to drafting this pretty highly because I recognize that this is a game finisher. All right. Stacked in your favor. This card I do like, but it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. It has go again, so it's an R that has go again, so it meets my demands there. And then your attack actions, block for a little bit more, right? And then you destroy it, draw a card at the beginning of your turn, and then put a card on top of your deck. So the reason why I really like this card is because the red version has it where your attack actions block 3 more. It almost acts as if this card is attached on. In fact, it's even better since this card blocks for 2, right? So if you can play this card and then your attack action blocks for 6, then you might just need to just block with 1 attack action, and then you get to stack the cards to be in your favor for a clash, and then go from there, right? Love that we get Victor in the art here. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I like this card for limited. I'm not gonna draft it super high. I think it's more just like a win more card. So I'll draft it if it kind of comes around. In Constructed, I don't think this card's doing enough. Maybe if you're going to go heavy block deck, I could see that. But the fact that it costs 2 to play out, yeah, I'm not feeling this card in Constructed. In Limited, I think it's okay. And then in UPF, I think this card's awesome. I really do. I think it's great in UPF. So that's where I'm at with that. Next, Command Respect. Basically, having an on hit of a Command and Conquer like that, all you need to do is have a might or some sort of plus to give it that on hit. I think this card is really awesome. I think this card is really great. However, you do need to meet those conditions. I think in Limited, that's not hard at all. So I value this card quite high, and it's kind of insane to me that it's a common. So I'm all about it. It seems like there's a ton of ways to create might tokens, so I'm all about this Command Respect. Now, in Constructed, you're going to have to find ways to pump your Guardian attacks. None of the current heroes do that with this card. So you would have to have it where, this card comes in with a pummel or something, but it's just, it's not even pummel numbers. Yeah, I don't think it meets the mark. So I think we say Command Respect is amazing and Limited, and just falls a little short in Constructed. All right, next up we have Concuss. Concuss, having it where if it has greater power than its base, they discard a card. Again, this is awesome. This is amazing that there's some on hit for Guardian cards here that are just 3 for 6s. Both of those were just 3 for 6s. And so in Limited, this card is awesome. It feels like, yeah, this card is going to be great. If I can play this with Betsy and somehow give it overpower as well. Betsy gives this plus. If I can make it become some sort of wager. This is awesome. I'm all about Concuss. I'm all about Command Respect. I really am. I am stoked about this, and it makes me feel Guardian really has some strong commons to be drafting. Now, when we're looking at Constructed, here again, great on hit, but just needs that extra bump. So if you build a deck that looks to give that extra bump, you can add stuff like Dump and stuff like that, right? There's a ton of cards that work, like if it has greater power, then this is awesome. This could work, but as of now, the type of decks, Guardian decks that are out there, just falls short. All right, speaking of Dump, we have Thunk. When you clash with revealing this, create a might token. So this is just a 5 for 8. It's a little undervalued. 5 for 9 is where the value really is. So it's a little undervalued. Yeah, if you clash, it's kind of cool, but it falls a little short. It definitely falls a little short. But it is a 6 power blue for what that's worth. Wallop, kind of the same deal. A 4 for 7. 3 for 7 is where you want to be. At the very least, a 3 for 6. So 4 for 7. You really want to be a 4 for 8 when it comes to Guardian. So Wallop falls a little short in my eyes as well. Big Bop. Big Bop is one of these auras that I was talking about before that you can play out, and then your next turn you can get this, big ass attack. So this one's getting the +5 in the red, and then allowing you to wager. So pretty considerable when thinking about Betsy. I don't know how often I really just want to play this card out. As mentioned before, I just don't like that playstyle. I don't want to give my opponent a hand of 4 cards to come at me with, even if I'm trying to do this. But if I felt like I can win the game because I'm going to get overpowered with Betsy and I'm going to give my big Guardian attack +5, okay, maybe that's the playstyle. But as of now, I'm not really into it. Now, in UPF, I like this card quite a bit for the same reasons I mentioned before. So I really like this for UPF or Big Bop. And then, as mentioned in Classic Constructed, yes, if you build a deck that had Big Bop and stuff like Concuss and Command Respect and Dump and stuff like that, then okay, but that deck doesn't exist right now. Maybe it can, maybe it should, but right now it doesn't, so I don't see this game played in Constructed. Bigger than Big, same deal. This one you're just getting a Might token instead of a Vigor token. So same deal. Alright, next up, Pint of Stout, or Strong and Stout. Just a blue pitch that gives you a Might and Vigor. Really wish this blocked for 3, but it does not. So in that case, I think it's okay in Limited. I probably draft it middle to late picks. And then in Constructed, this would work for that deck that I was talking about, but that's about it. So we'll say probably falls short there. All right, those are all the just Guardian cards. Let's get into the hybrids for Guardians. We've got quite a bit of those. Starting off the Brute Guardian hybrids, we got Gauntlet of Might. All these cards I mentioned in the previous Brute video, but going over again, just in a Guardian lens. This is just a block 1, and the Might token might actually be pretty relevant. This might be the time when you're playing Guardian that you want to actually consider using this Gauntlet to break it to get the Might token and putting that Concuss in your arsenal, or that Command Respect in your arsenal, because you just need a +1 more, or the Big Shot to give the overpower, putting that in your arsenal. So I like it for that. I think it's very good. This equipment being hybrid anyways is super good, and I would draft it fairly high. Talk a big game. I mentioned before, this is more just a fun card. I think this is a UPF card. I do think you can talk a big game a little easier with Guardian than you could with Brute, because Guardian has stuff that can dominate or overpower, so you can kind of have more of an idea of how much damage you'll deal. So I think if you really wanted to play this in Limited, you should be playing Guardian more than Brute with it. That being said, it's just it's more just a fun card than anything else. It is a blue block 3 though, so there's that to consider, that it does just meet the average, just decent card for Guardian. Clash of Might. Love these cards to death. The fact that they're hybrid, the fact that they block 3, the fact that they're 2 for 6, so they're just great value. And then they even reward you if you block with them. Love these cards. Like the reds, like the yellows, like the blues. I think these are awesome cards. These are cards that I'm looking to pick 1 through 5 of packs. Yeah. And then as far as limits or constructed goes, probably don't care too much about clashing to get a Might token, and it just being a 2 for 6 is kind of whatever. Maybe Betsy, because she tends to want to be a little bit more aggressive, so she plays a little bit lower cost attacks. So maybe Betsy. That's about it though. Maybe Goldman as well, actually, because I could see him being very block heavy. All right, Batter Not Broken. Just a way to prevent some damage, creating a Might token. In Constructed, I think there's just better options out there. I would just take a Sigil of Solace even better than this. But in Limited, this could be acted as a D-React or something to help block overpower. I'm going to pick this later. I'm going to pick attacks before I pick this. Test of Might, a Brute Guardian block card. Blocks for 4. It does do that. You clash, you get a Might. Clashing is hard and limited, as I see it now. If that changes, I will, I'll come out with a video about that, that's for sure. But as I see it now, everyone has big cards. So I don't particularly like block cards in Constructed. If I was just going pure D-Reacts and just using Miller Grindstone, that's the thing. Miller Grindstone would never win a clash, though. So, yeah, it doesn't feel great. Okay, Wall of Meat and Muscle. This one's really cool, but you need that Might token. So, yeah, I'm not sure. By the way, I should mention, I don't mind Test of Might in UPF. I don't mind block cards in UPF. To me, it makes a little bit more sense, just because you could get attacked from both sides, and so having more 4 blocks could be what you need. Wall of Meat and Muscle, I think, yeah, UPF is okay if you plan on getting Might tokens, if you're making that sort of deck. If I find that you consistently have Might tokens, maybe not every turn, but every other turn or every third turn. If it's every third turn, okay, I'm kind of on the fence. If it's every other turn or every turn, this card's awesome. This card's great. I'm going to be running it, and I'm going to be drafting it high. Mighty Windup. You can instant speed discard it, create that Might token. That Might token just isn't that important to me. 3 for 7 is good value, but blocks for 2, so yeah. Rising Power. I'm not really drawing cards as Guardian unless I'm cracking the gold. So that's just not something I'm really going to be looking at. Brute can do it a little bit better, but yeah. Wage Might. Just wagering, like if it's going to hit, you get a Might token. It's not so bad. I don't mind the wager cards because you can choose to wager, if it looks favorable. I like this one just because it's hybrid. It's a 3 for 7. It's a breakpoint, the red. So I like the breakpoint. Because basically this means they got to give you 3 cards to block it, at least. And if that's the case, then that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And then they just get a Might token if they fully block it. So it's like, I'm okay with that. And if you feel like they will fully block it and you just don't want to have Might token, then you just don't wager. Plain and simple. So I like that card quite a bit. Lead with Power, a 1 for 3. Because the hammers, I believe they cost 3 to attack with. Yeah, they do. Yeah, I'm just not super big on pumping the hammers because it's going to require a blue to attack with the hammer, and then another card to pay for this, and then this card counts as itself. So it becomes a little bit too much. So, and then it's like, do I really need to get my Guardian attacks plus? Now, if I do have a lot of those concusses, if I have a lot of those command respects, if I have a lot of the big shots or big swings or whatever, then yes, I'm going to, if I drafted those pretty early, then yes, I'm going to try to fill the rest of my draft with Lead with Power, because then I can use this Lead with Power to get those effects to come online. So it would be a little costly, but if it means having such a huge attack with a devastating on hit, all right, I'm okay with that. Limited can be a very swingy game, and if that can swing me in the right way, then we're going to win and we're going to be okay. Okay, so those are all the Brute Guardians. Let's get into the Brute Warriors. Vigor Girth, creating a Vigor token. That's okay. If you really feel like you need it, or if you have like a 4 cost attack, and this is going to help make it just where you only need 1 card to attack with it for the next turn, okay. But probably just good block 1. But I drafted pretty high just because Guardian Warrior keeps it open. Double Down is pretty interesting. The fact that you could destroy a gold to just play it for free. Okay, not bad. That feels more like if you were Olympia, you could really make this work. But the next attack that wagers this turn gets +3 and overpower. really good. Again, feels like Olympia. If a hero would create one or more tokens from a wager, they create that many instead. So it's just, yeah. I feel like this card is more just Olympia card. It's almost like an Olympia specialization, really. I don't know, like, yeah, like Betsy could run this card, and that would be fine too. But you have to find an attack that already has wager. That's the only thing. So in draft, I'm probably drafting this kind of low, unless this is like the only time I draft this high is like high pack 3 if I feel like I have the wager deck, or I'm definitely Olympia, right? Otherwise, I'm kind of drafting this a little low. And then if you're playing Olympia in CC, I think you should play this card. If you're playing Betsy, I think you can pass on this. It costs a lot. Clash of Vigor. One of these cards that can attack and defend and, gives you a Vigor token if you win. I'm good with this. I'm okay with this one as well in limited. I could lose the Clash and they get one extra resource. Yeah, that kind of does suck, but it's not as bad as Agility. It's not as good as a Might, because I kind of don't give a I don't care if they get a Might token, but I do care if they get a Agility token, and Vigor I kind of care about. So I'm kind of on the fence, but it is what it is, and I'm still liking it because it's Guardian Warrior. We have Slap Happy, being able to prevent 2 damage and create a Vigor token. Kind of okay with that because the Vigor token replaces itself because it pitches for 1 anyways. So this one to me kind of makes the most sense out of all the instant speed blocks, or instant speed prevent damage. So Slap Happy I'm more okay with than the other ones, but it is a dual class card, so I do like it for that. It's probably still not going to see any sort of constructed play. Hearty Block. Just how many times are we going to have a Vigor token? And do I really want to put a block card in there no. My answer is no. I'm not really huge in this card in limited, and I don't see this card having a place in constructed. Test of Vigor. This at least blocks for 4. Yeah, just still not big. If Overpower is something that is pretty prominent, is something that you should expect, then okay, I will be looking at cards like Test of Vigor to counteract it. But I will probably take a lot more cards ahead of this, and so therefore it might just never come around for me. Rising Energy. If you've drawn a card, costs less. It's Guardians, unless you're cracking the gold. We're not really drawing cards, so this is more of a Warrior card than anything else. Which he kind of looks like a Warrior, but he kind of looks like a Guardian at the same time. So I don't think this is going to see constructed plays for Guardians. Vigorous Wind Up, instant speed, destroying it. First off, awesome looking card. Super cool looking Gladiator. Cool axe, cool armor. Everything's really freaking cool about the art on this card. But, a 3 for 7 that blocks for 2 is just kind of okay. I think it's fine in limited. I think you can draft these and feel okay with it, but I don't see it making any waves in constructed. Wage Vigor, being able to attack and then wager a Vigor token. I'm okay with this too. It's kind of in the mid route. I don't really want to give my opponent a Vigor token, but this is a triple block. You do have to put 3 cards in front of this, unless you have a block 4, right? So I am still kind of okay with it. It is a hard card to block as far as the red pitch, so I do value this card quite high in limited. I do not see it making any sort of waves in constructed. And then finally, we have Lead with Heart, giving our next Guardian Warrior attack this turn +3 and create a Vigor token. Cost 1. It kind of pays for itself in the next turn. But anyhow, I don't mind this if I have quite a bit of concuss, big swing, command respect. Then I love these cards and I'm looking for these cards. Before that, I don't need to pump up the cards that are already super big. Maybe if I have some towering effect, but even then, it needs to be +5, not +3. So it's I still want to kind of avoid the tower cards. Anyhow, With that all being said, that is all the Guardian cards. I don't think we're going to see any immediate impacts on the new Guardians on this new like constructed meta. Maybe Betsy, maybe Victor, but I think those are going to be few and far between. I do think Bravo has gotten a little bit, but not a ton. It feels like this is just going to really be more about limited and how strong these Guardians are going to be in limited, particularly Betsy. I have high expectations on Betsy. So thanks for watching. We're going to do Warriors next, so stick around for that. Until then, keep on fabbing.